Hey, and welcome back. So I'm really excited today to share this video of these boho scroll beads with you, and I want to go over some of the materials real quick. So now these are all, I have torn all these into strips, some of them to be bead size, but others for other projects. But these are from my Deep Rust kits 1, 2, and 3, and these are in my Etsy shop, and they all come raw like this. They're very grungy with a lot of metal elements on them. And then what I did was I just hit them up with my script stamp and some archival ink, and then I spattered them with my golden iridescent bronze paint. I just watered this down and spattered a bunch of these a long time ago, so I have them ready to go. So all of this is linked below, and this is my shop. I've got a lot of eco dyes, if you're not familiar with my shop, and a lot of grunge kits in there, and I've got more and more kits coming as time goes on. I just did a bunch of eco dyes too. My last batch of this season, and I'm glad I'm done this year. So now here is a very special treasure I want to share with you. So now this is an eco dye kit from Susan Taylor Brown, and her shop is Poppiness in Etsy, and this is linked below as well. And this kit is Forest Trail, and I've got to tell you, Susan Taylor Brown is absolutely one of my favorite eco dye artists. I think her stuff is really amazing. Just look at this. And I'll flip through these with you real quick. So I made some beads out of these, and I'm going to be making a lot of projects out of her eco dyes, and there's some other artists I love, and I like my own stuff. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff coming up with these paper kits. So definitely, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification, and you won't miss anything. You know the drill. Look at how amazing these are. They are beautiful. Now this is printed on just thin copy paper because I wanted, first of all, I wanted to print them as fast as I could to see how they looked, and as you can see, they print beautifully. And then I wanted them for journal pages, so I went ahead and did it on the thinner, cheapo copy paper, and look at how amazing these are. So yeah, these beads are really fun. And I did say, I'm sure I said it, I've got this kit linked below, and then just once you get in, it'll take you right to this kit, and then you can just bounce around and browse right off of the links, okay? So be sure to do that when you have a little time. If you like this stuff, just looking at these kits is a feast for the eyes, my goodness. So let's go ahead and walk through how I start these off. So the way I have found, and I've tried it a couple different ways, and I found this to be the easiest, is I will figure out, I've just got these bar straws that I'm using, and I have these black ones, and then I have some that are a little bit smaller, and I wanted the thicker just for to have the scroll have a little bit of bulk to it. So what I do is I pick my length of how long I want the bead first, and then I cut the straw to length. Let me bring you in a bit. And then once I've got the straw cut to length, I just take my ruler and I lay it down here. Let me flip it over. So you want to pick your paper, and I love this right here. You really can't go wrong with Susan's kits. She has some incredible eco dyes. So all I want to do here is just run my straw up and down the length of my paper and make sure that it's falling equal. And then I just simply like to throw a crease in there. And you can tear it right now with the use of your ruler, or you can give it a quick lick, which I like to do. I like to fold it backwards like that and just give it a quick lick and then tear it. So then you end up with this. And then now what you want to do is determine what what tiny part you want of this paper to show. And I give it about this much because I want a little bit of bulk to this bead. So now, you know me, I always use Mod Podge matte, and my label is so gross from all the gluing I've done. Oh, it's just the way it is, right? I mean, I've been using this bottle for probably 3 years, something like that. So you just want to do a little line of glue, and you want to have a paper towel handy always. I always need paper towels handy. And then you just want to drop your straw in there, just like so. And then if you have cigarette rolling experience, wink, wink, this will be easy for you. Rolling those cigarettes. Okay, and then that's enough right there. I actually just cleaned the nozzle of my bottle because it was clogged, and it was just giving me a really light stream of glue, and it was working better, but that's all right. So I cleaned it out. Now I'm getting a big blob out. So that little blob did this whole bead, right? So then you just want to twist it up and keep it, try to keep it even. See how it's twisting on me? You want to be careful of that. I haven't had too much of that happening, but it will if you're not careful. Just be really careful how you line it up to begin with, and you'll be fine. So then I just like to take a paper towel, because you're going to get some glue coming out of that. So just take your paper towel and give it a quick rub. Now, I was messing around with these last night, and I was using that thicker paper. And it was, I mean, look at this. This is already together. But if you use really thick paper, instead of having to sit here and hold this thing together, you can take a couple little miniature clothespins and just pop them right in that circle on your clothespin, and then you can set it aside to let it dry for a while. The thinner your paper, you do not have to do this, because it's just, it instantly sticks. So you don't have that issue. Okay, so let's just do a quick one with this thicker paper here. Just gonna throw, see, it's really coming out of my bottle fast. I've found it easier to do this part first rather than trying to fit everything to the wire. You kind of have to do that. If you're buying wire that's pre-cut, you're going to have to cut your straw to the size to fit that wire before you do anything else. And it makes sense to do that. I just like to cut my own wire a lot of the time, not always. But this will give you the freedom to cut your wire after the fact, you know. And it's a little tricky, because you've got to have, if you start out with a wire that's already got a factory loop on one end, you've got to match that loop on the other, and then you've got to have room for your beads. So you got to account for all that good stuff. Okay, so you're always going to get that lip of glue coming out, of course. And I just do one side and come in and hit the other side, just like so. And then this thicker paper, look at that, it's holding beautifully already. But if you're using really thick paper and having trouble, just go ahead and clamp that thing down. Make sure you've got it clear of glue, and just give it a little clothespin. And this will leave a tiny mark, but it's much easier to smooth out the mark on the thicker paper beads than it is the thinner ones. Now that we have our beads all glued onto the straw and dry, now we want to do some wiring. Now these are factory wires with an eyelet head, and these are 2-inch, and I get mine at Hobby Lobby, and I have seen them in 3-inch, but they only have a flat head. I have not seen the eyelet end on the 3-inch, and a lot of times I have to cut my own wire, but for these little beads, this factory one's going to work perfect. So I've got my pattern picked out, and I want to just throw it on here. I've got gold, a little gold bead, a little wood bead, and then I'm going to put on the scroll bead and then just follow it up. These are really small and simple, and you can get super elaborate if you want to leave charms. You can also use the flat head and not have any charms hanging from it. So you've got options. I'm going to go over the tools as I use them. So this bead is pretty long, and the wire gauge I like to use for this is 18 because it's a little thicker and it's a little sturdier. Now this other set of pliers I have, and I use all of these, and I don't think that you should scrimp on jewelry pliers. I think if you're going to make jewelry, get all the stuff you need and just have it. It's a good investment. Now these are flat on the inside with no serrated edge, and then these have a cutter attached to them, and I love the 2-in-1. Now what you want to do with this wire is make sure you want to look at your bead, and you want to make sure you have enough room for some extra beads on the ends and then some loops. And you don't need too much extra wire, but you want to make sure you're not short, because then you can really be in trouble. Always do this or it'll come unraveled on you. Little side note for you. Now back to my round nose pliers. I'm going to grab that in about the middle. You see that? Because I want a little bit bigger of a loop. Oh wait, first, I've got to bend this back past about like that is where you want it. You want it pretty far, okay? And then you want to come in higher up so that you can make a nice big decent loop, just like that. And it takes a little practice, but it's quite easy. Now again, I like to come in, just clamp that down, kind of straighten everything up. The great thing about these is they don't scratch your wire. Even these, even though they don't have a serrated edge, they can still really mar up your wire pretty bad. So now I've got my bead combo ready to go for this as well. I'm going to do 2 gold on this. I love these papers. These with the little script stamp really came out cool. And then look, you can actually see the veining in that leaf on this bead from Susan's paper. Is that not awesome? I am going to be making some more fun charm style things out of these paper, because paper's not just for paper crafting. I guess that doesn't really work, does it? I just like to go beyond paper crafting with paper. Okay. I don't know if that makes sense. I like to make all different kinds of cool stuff out of paper. Okay, now this is a little tad bit long, but I'm glad it is. So I'm gonna take my cutters, and I've been doing this long enough, and you will get a feel for it. You'll kind of know about where you need to be. I'm gonna say right about there for that. In fact, I'm gonna give myself a little more and give that a whack. Now, something I like to have handy, I always have a can with a nice lid that I can get into, and I put all my scrap metal in there so that I don't have it all over the place. It's just a safety habit that is really gives me tons of peace of mind, because I've got kids and dogs and all that good stuff. So then you just want to bend your bead just like the last one, and go ahead and wrap that. Just keep spinning until it comes together. Now, if it goes over a little like that, then you can just take your acrylic pliers with the soft ends and just smush that down. Okay, now if you don't have this, the next best thing is a smoothed edge plier like so. Okay, so now you've got this bead together. This is where it's so scary for me, because I've got you so tight and then I get out of frame. Okay, so now I need a few of these jump rings to finish off this design, and you want to use relatively strong ones. So I like to use my sawtooth and my flat head pliers for this. Now, I love these sawtooth because they're curved and you can really get into stuff very easily with them. So you just want to throw your boho bead on and then throw your charm on. And with these beads, it doesn't really matter which way your charm goes, depending on how the bead is, because this part spins, so you don't have to worry about it, but sometimes you do. So just be mindful of that, okay? And then let's go ahead and do this one. Now, this little charm's got 2 holes, so you're kind of pinned into using both. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that first one on and my boho bead, because I'm going to need a couple of jump rings for this. Now, you always want to twist back and forth. You never want to pull out. I say that every time, sound like a broken record. And just make sure that's together. And then we'll grab one more jump ring and put the last charm on. And then we'll do our wire. I probably should have done the wire first, but it's okay. So I'm putting my charm on this way. I hope I'm in frame for all that, geesh Louise. So here's the back of this charm. I want to go back to back so that these will line up face to face. So just make sure the backs are touching when you're adding multiple charms. If there is a back side, if they're double-sided, no worries. And then close that up tight. And then there you go. There's your beautiful little embellishments on there. So there's 3 different ways to do these beads, and I'm going to show you each way. So here's the first way, and this is just a cute little spiral wire scroll, and we'll do one of those. And then I've just got a little tie with some string, and I'm thinking it's embroidery string. It's a little thinner than the thick stuff you can buy that in the, you know what I'm talking about. But we'll do one of those. And then there's one more like the, oh, no, wrong one. Okay, here it is. This one has the wire tucked into the ends. So I'm going to show you how to do all 3 of those. So here's this really cute little bead here, and I've got a piece of wire, and it's, you know, a good quadruple the length of this bead. So we're going to be good to go, and I can get plenty of wraps around it. Now, see how there's a lot of play in here? I've got some extra space. Now, I did that on purpose because let's go between the scroll bead, and you want to go at least that much of a tail and start wrapping this wire around that wire on the inside. This is why you want to leave some play, because you want to get this wire down in between the beads. Okay, and then that way it's safe and the beads cover it. So you get all that clamped down, and you really want to make sure there's nothing sticking out. Okay, and then you can just start wrapping, and you want to kind of push it towards that to kind of cover the work you just did, and that'll also give you the room where you need it on this side. So then you just want to kind of, you got to fuss with this a little bit and just wrap this metal around your bead. And I have quite a bit of extra. I should have went a few more, but I like the look of it, so we'll just whack it. I try to use all of my wire as much as I possibly can, but every now and then you've got to cut it. So I'm around about 4 times that inside wire there. Plus this tightens up your bead. So I'm just going to come in and cut that as close as I can. Grab my little metal can. That thing just saves me. I don't have to worry about it. I've always done it. Okay, so then I'm just spinning and clamping because I don't want anybody to get poked. So now, there you go. You have that beautiful little wrap on your scroll. So here's one way. Now, there's something you can do to this as well. You always want to use your round nose to do this so you don't cut your wire, but you can come in here and there and very gently just tweak that wire. Let me get it to where you can actually see. Okay, get a hold of that wire and just gently bend it a tiny bit, and you want to go with kind of with the flow of where you turned it, where you put it on the other wire. You know what I'm trying to say. It's easier to see it than explain it sometimes. Okay, so you can put some fun little bends in your wire like that too. You can even add tiny little seed beads, but I didn't want that for this style. So there's that one. Let's move on now. This one here, we're going to do the scroll. All right, so for this one, let's go ahead and do the scroll. Now for the scroll. Scrolls, I like to bump my gauge back to 24. This is a much thinner wire and it's easier to spiral and work with. So once I get mine out like that, these are really great for just smoothing it out. A lot of this is repetition for you guys who watch my beading videos. I apologize for that. I'm going to have to figure out a way to not be repeating myself. So now you want to go double the length of your bead, give or take. It depends on how this really, you're in the realm of personal taste now, because you might want a lot of wire on your bead. You might just want what you need. So this really, you just play with it and you'll figure out what you like and you'll figure out how to get it. So now I want to be on the very smallest setting on my little setting. I want to be on the smallest part of my plier here, and I want to spin all the way around until that is pretty much closed. Now, there is a really intense temptation to keep a hold of this tool for the next step, but I'm telling you, don't do it because it won't work and you'll just frustrate yourself. Now, I take these, if you don't have these, use something smooth, and that's the next best thing. Until you can get these, you really should have a pair. I swear by these. Didn't have them for years, so mad at myself. So now, the trick to the spiral is you don't want it wider than your bead, and it takes a tiny bit to get this little thing started, but once you get it started, it goes pretty smooth. Okay, so now I've got it to that point. That's looking pretty close. All right, and I like it to go along the scroll, the end of the scroll, so it's like covering that opening. So then you just want to hold that down, and I actually like to hold it this way so that the wire flows the same direction that it was already flowing in. You see what I'm saying? So just hold that down, and if you don't quite get what I'm saying, once you do it, you'll totally know what I'm talking about. So go ahead and do a few now. Now, I like to have both of my spirals on the same side, okay? I want one here and one here, but I want them definitely on the same side. So you want to account for that as you're spinning this wire around. Now, even that is going to give me quite a big spiral. So I'm going to try to go one more. and I lost quite a bit of it, but just that tiny bit is going to give me a good size spiral. Blah, blah, blah. So same thing. This one's trickier, of course, because it's attached to the bead, and this is why you want to do the charms last. It makes it easier. Arrgh. I'm good at getting ahead of myself, and it's okay, but I mean, if you do it not like I'm doing it, you'll have an easier time. Oh, I don't want to be mean to myself, but sometimes. All right, and then sometimes you just want to pull this wire out so that you can reach it and get to it. And then just go to where you think it's going to line up. This one's a little wonky, but that's okay with me. Now my other one is all the way over here, so I actually have to unwind that the tiniest bit. This is why I like to use the thinner wire. It's much easier to work with. And then you just come down and smush that with your fingers down onto the bead. Now you can glue it if you want. I think they're okay. I'm not worried about gluing it. Let me move these. So there is your cute little spiral scroll. Okay, and then the third is just so easy, but I'll just do it for you to show you my process. So now I want a plenty long enough piece of string so that I can tie it, because, you know, it's hard if it's too short. Absolutely. Okay, so I like to put this right in the middle of my bead here. And then I just want to give it one tie. You kind of have to get it tied and then maybe adjust it. So I've got that. And then I'm going to hold this tail down, and I just like to go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 the opposite way. And I like to just get a little bit of string showing on this bead to where it's together, and I like to keep all of mine together. You can spread it out, but I'm not sure it would stay. You know, you can spread it out like the wire, but I'm not going to work that hard, you know. I'm not doing it. If I want it spread out, I'll just use wire. It's just easier. So, and this looks really cool with it all together like that. See that? So I've got 1 tie, 2 ties. And then all I like to do, you could even put little beads on these if you wanted to and let them hang. But I worry about stuff getting caught, and I like to have it look really like a scroll. So I want those even, you know, at no longer than the scroll itself, or just barely, if at all. And I think that look is really cute. So let's go ahead real quick. Now that I've showed you all 3 ways, I'm just going to show you real quick the beads that I have made. So these are really fun and addicting to make. Here's the one we just did right here, and then here's some others. These all have the spirals on them, and then here's the other one we just made, the little scroll, and then there's that wire one. So you can really just go wild. I hope you can see all these pretty well. I'll do a batch and then move them over. I just like the whole scroll idea, just to make it look like this little ancient script, and it's a little secret hidden in your artwork or your junk journal tassel. And you could make pendants out of these, earrings, junk journal tassels, on and on. Placemat settings, somehow you could do something like this. I don't know, you'd have to play with that idea a little bit more, but that would be fun. These both have these funny Tim Holtz ruler charms on them, but I like them. I think they're pretty cute. This one has a bee, and I love the grungy, how the grungy leaf print showed up on that. And you can't even tell it's a leaf print, but the paper is just fun. And you can do so many different kinds of papers, and you could do fabric with these. I think it'd be a little harder to pull off the scroll look with fabric. I do have a fabric boho bead tutorial. I'll link that below too. Okay, so here's the last of what I have made so far. So, you know, go wild with this, have a good time, explore and experiment different stuff, and it's a great way to use up your scrap papers left over from your journal pages or whatever you're doing. And then it's also a great way to use up some of your charms. So I'm really happy you joined me today, and I hope you have a good time making these, and I'll see you real soon. Have a good one.